Today, I'm going to talk about sort of an interesting, and I would have thought not a timely topic, but I just checked my Google Analytics and it tells me that one of my highest ranking recipes on Google is how to roast a chicken. And that would not have occurred to me because right now it is June, but if all y'all are roasting chickens in June, more power to you because I love roasted chickens. So we're going to talk about roasting chickens today. Um, and there's a couple tips that I like to keep in mind. And for some reason, like a lot of people really struggle with roasting chickens. And roasting chickens is actually like the easiest way to cook a chicken, right? It's kind of hard to screw it up. But it definitely becomes easier with more experience. So I know one of the top issues that people run into is the breasts cook too quickly and the thighs cook not quick enough. It's because the dark meat um, takes a little bit longer to cook, but also because most people, when you cook a chicken, you cook it breast up, which means that the breast of the chicken is exposed to the ambient heat of the oven much more closely than the thighs, which are actually sitting against the bottom of the pan and protected by that. So what I like to do is I actually like to start my chicken by flipping it over and put it thighs up. And what happens is I cook it like that for 20, 30 minutes, and then I flip it over. And then the thighs have gotten a nice, solid, good college try in the cooking department, and then the breasts start cooking. So another important thing that I want to mention is a lot of people like to cook their chicken with vegetables. So like you chop up onions and carrots and potatoes and whatnot, put them on the bottom of the pan, and you put the chicken on top of them. And that can pose a problem because the vegetables sometimes won't cook all the way, right? So like you'll pull your chicken out and the carrots and your potatoes are still hard. And there's a couple different ways to fix that. So one thing I like to do is I like to chop up my vegetables, put them in the pan, and then put the pan in the oven for 20 minutes before I put the chicken in the pan. It gives those vegetables a good solid cooking start because what happens is once you put the chicken in, the chicken kind of protects the vegetables underneath and it will keep, especially the ones that are directly under the chicken, won't cook, right? And when I pull the veggies out, I take a wooden spoon and I kind of scoop the vegetables out of the middle of the pan. And I put the chicken in the pan, not on top of the vegetables, which gives the veggies more opportunity to cook because they're not being covered and swished by the chicken. What you can also do is you can get like these like little grates. They're like about that big and they have like 4 little feet. And you put them down in the middle of the vegetables and the chicken sits on top of the grate. So it's not sitting directly in the vegetables. It's kind of giving a little bit of space between the veggies and the chicken. And that'll help the veggies cook as well. But I really like starting the veggies about 20 minutes before I start cooking the chicken, just to give them a good head start. And like if you pull the chicken out and you find that your vegetables aren't cooked, just throw the vegetables back in the oven without the chicken afterwards and they'll cook while the chicken is resting. Another really important factor about roasting chickens is you need to test all parts of the chicken to make sure it's done, right? So I have a really awesome thermometer. It's called a Thermapen, and I wish I had it here to show you, but I don't. And it's basically a probe thermometer, right? And it's got like a little metal, pokey thing. And what you want to do is you want to test the breast and you want to stick it in the long part of the breast, right? If the breast is like, imagine it like a heart, right? For the full breast, and then it's like divided in half, so like a half heart. And if you stick the probe of the thermometer in the fattest part of the breast and run it along the inside of the chicken, you want to test the temperature in the very thickest, very middle part of the chicken, not near a bone and not near the middle, like in the very middle part of the breast, because that's the area that is most likely going to be undercooked, right? Like as you get into the chicken, you get like way deep down, and if the chicken's not cooked enough, you notice you cut off the breast, and right where it sits, right against the breast or against the rib cage, that's where it's still kind of pink and a little like funny looking. Like that's the area that you want to test, right? Same thing with the thighs. Like you want to test the thighs. And so what I recommend doing after the chicken's been cooking about 45 minutes, regardless of what temperature you've got it in at, test the breasts and test the thighs. You test the thighs. Like if you look at the chicken thigh, it's got like the fat part of the thigh and the chicken leg comes down like this. You want to stick it in the fat part of the thigh up at the top, like right in the fattiest part of the thigh where it connects to the rest of the chicken body. And that's where you want to test the temperature. And now if you are testing the temperature of your chicken and you find that it's not, or like one piece of the chicken is done and then other pieces of the chicken like still have longer to cook, cut off the piece that is done. Like do not take a piece of chicken that is already done and is at temperature and stuff it back in the oven just because the thighs aren't done yet, because those breasts will just be like shoe leather. They'll be awful. So if you pull your chicken out, you test the temperature, and you find that the chicken breast is already done, but the thighs still need to cook longer, just cut off the chicken breasts, both of them, tent them with foil on a plate, and put them in, the microwave, or put them somewhere where they're protected from kind of like ambient cold air so they don't cool off so quickly. And then cook the chicken thighs the rest of the way. Okay, throw the chicken back in the oven and keep it cooking, because like overcooking part of a chicken just to accommodate the part that takes longer to cook it's not going to work. Like that's not a good way to go about it. My favorite way to roast a chicken personally is I take the whole chicken and I dry it off and bring it to room temperature first. So I take it out of the fridge about an hour before I roast it. And then I take room temperature butter and I rub it all over the chicken, like all over the chicken. Like I end up with butter up to here, it seems like, but rub it everywhere, every little nook and cranny on that chicken. And then what I do is I take salt and I sprinkle it all over the chicken on the outside. And then I roast it. Now here's the thing. I do that having already salted the chicken 24 hours ahead of time, because I know for a fact that meat that is salted 24 hours ahead of time is more flavorful. And what happens is if you salt your chicken ahead of time, by way of osmosis, that salt works its way into the meat of your chicken and it actually becomes a lot more forgiving, right? So if you take your whole chicken 24 hours before you cook it, cover it with salt, rub it into every little nook and cranny, and then you stuff it back in a Ziploc bag and put it back in the fridge and let that chicken sit overnight with that salt on it, what happens is that salt, it basically infiltrates the meat from surface to bone. And it makes it a little bit harder to dry out the chicken. So if you tend to maybe cook your chicken a little too long, or you haven't really nailed the timing yet, salting it 24 hours ahead of time will make your chicken infinitely more forgiving in the temperature department, and also make it more flavorful, because instead of just having salt on the surface, you will have salty flavor through the whole chicken, which makes it taste even better. So then after 24 hours, I cover it with butter. I sprinkle a little bit more salt on it, because what that salt does on the surface between the salt and the butter on the skin is it crisps up the skin, right? Those two things work together to give you that really crispy, really beautiful skin. And then I usually just stuff a lemon in the middle. Sometimes I'll trust my chicken. Sometimes I just don't want to deal with it, right? Sometimes it's just annoying. Honestly, trusting a chicken I find it a really obnoxious task. I don't know why. I do it sometimes I don't. Basically, the goal of trusting a chicken is to keep air from circulating in the middle of it and drying it out. But if you stuff a bunch of stuff in the middle of your chicken, it'll work the same way. So I usually take a lemon, cut it in half or cut it in quarters and stuff it in there. And I'll stuff in some whole sprigs of rosemary or thyme or whatever herbs I have growing in the garden at that point. And not only does it kind of stop the chicken from drying out from air circulating in them, it also smells amazing. So as it's cooking, you get that beautiful smell of lemon and herbs, and overall it's just a really great experience. I don't know. For me, roasting chickens is it's the ultimate comfort food, right? In fact, when I get depressed, I roast a lot of chickens just to comfort myself. There was one season where I lived in Cape Cod in the dead of winter. There's nothing open except for the bar and the library and the grocery store. All I did all winter long was roast chickens and hang out at the bar. I made friends with oyster fishermen who dropped off oysters at my door, which was awesome. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions about roasting chickens, go ahead and drop them below in a comment and I will answer them. I'll talk to you later. Bye.